Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the episode of the Dirty Birds of Brews podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin, joined by friend of the show, our draft consigliere, Thor Nystrom, making his yearly pre-draft appearance here, still at Thor KU on the Twitters, X, whatever they call it these days. Thor, welcome back. I know you're fresh off of finally publishing the Thor 500, which if you guys haven't seen, that's up on fantasylife.com. Go check that out. Tremendous amount of work there. So I'm sure it's nice to have that finally out in the wild here.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, we were talking pre-show, like the work that goes into it, and it can be a grind sometimes, but it's a labor of love, right? Yeah. And like when it comes out, it's my favorite day of the year. You know, because like even just getting to see your own board and like how, you know, that stuff sort of shook out, like it's all good, and people are just so nice about it. You know, the reception's always really cool, so it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I mean, it's a great resource. Like fans, everybody watching, like go check it out, because I only really get to like 100 guys that I do actual evals on. Thor does 500 evals. That's the Thor 500. So if you know, on day 3, I guarantee you there's going to be someone you haven't heard of that gets drafted, and Thor probably put him in here. Now, we can't guarantee everyone. Sometimes the NFL goes even beyond what Thor does, which is, you know, I guess that's a thing. But, you know, definitely check it out. Have it up during the draft. It's great stuff there over at Fantasy Life. And yeah, Thor, how you doing, my man? It's been a little bit since we've had you on.
Yeah, it's been good, man. Yeah, I'm excited. We're less than a week away from the start of the draft, so yeah, it's go time. And you know, like I was telling you, this is my fun time. Like once I get that 500 board in with the 500 comps and everything, it's like after that, it's just fun. Talking about this stuff is fun. So yeah, I'm excited to talk draft with you right now.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So we're gonna get into some hot Falcons draft takes, some overall draft takes, talk about some prospects that Thor's got high, some guys that the Falcons might be interested in. Maybe I'll try to sell him Kirk Cousins at some point. You know, I don't think that's going to be successful, but you know, I would be remiss if I didn't try at least. You know, someone's got to do it apparently. But yeah, guys, we're going to get into all that stuff. Before we dive in real quick, I want to bring you guys a word from our sponsor, BetOnline. Folks, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing. The NFL, unfortunately, is not, but baseball's going. I know Braves fans in particular are, you know, it's not going great. I'll say it's not going great there. But for the Hawks, there is still a dream of postseason, perhaps. So you know they got to win this play-in, but you can bet on that. The NHL playoffs are getting kicked off, and BetOnline, of course, has more ways than ever to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. You can go check out the MLB, NHL, UFC. They've also got a bunch of random stuff sometimes. I know they've had esports and all kinds of craziness in there when that's going on. Go check out BetOnline for all your sports wagering info. And in between the games, you can check out their new online casino. It's got Vegas-style games, poker, live slots, all that stuff. Go check that out. And when you sign up, make sure to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to get access to the latest promotions over there on BetOnline. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, Thor. I don't know, you know, where you're sort of landing. Obviously, you could probably just not look at anything and just assume that the Falcons need an edge rusher, you know, every year, because, you know, for the last 4, they needed an edge rusher and we didn't get one. So that's still a thing. But where are you sort of leaning right now with your read on the draft? Do you think is this going to be the year? Are we finally going to get one? You know?
Yeah, but you know, I say that we say it every year, right? Yeah. Like it's like, oh, the biggest need for Falcons edge rusher, take an edge rusher, and then our boy terrible Terry Fontenot always bypasses it. I would think this would be the year, right? I mean, you don't have the quarterback thing anymore. Your only problem there, like you said, is offloading Cousins is, you know, somebody, but yeah, like edge rusher, and I think, you know, you were talking about BetOnline. I'm a BetOnline customer myself. I'm on several sports books, in the NFL draft props that are out there. Absolutely love them. I spent probably an hour yesterday afternoon making a series of bets. You know, that's like how I do it. Like I get like an hour window, and then I'll go through the updated odds and stuff. And I don't recall the Falcons position odds for first pick, but I'm pretty sure that edge rusher was the heavy favorite, like where you would have to lay juice against all the other positions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, and that's why I always keep wide receiver in the back pocket. You never know with these Falcons. You could just throw. I think it was like plus 7,500 for wide receiver, but it's the Falcons. They could always throw that curveball in. But yeah, no, I definitely think that edge rusher is the odds-on favorite, no doubt. And yeah, I mean, I know you have Mike Green as your edge too. That's the same for me. What do you think about that fit? I mean, I love the fit personally.
I love that fit too. Yeah, I mean, they need a guy to get after the quarterback, and Mike, he's just so good. Like, the more you watch Mike Green, the more you respect his game, and he has that propulsion off the snap, and then it's like a microwave. How instantly he converts speed to power. Just ask Josh Connerly Jr. about that.
Oh God, great rep.
Yeah,
it was the best video clip I took at the Senior Bowl too. That was the best one. Love that rep.
Were you in the end zone?
I wasn't in the end zone. I was like right off to the corner, so I got the full thing where he just bulldozed him. I
think because I think you had a really good angle on it. I seen that video on Twitter. But yeah, that's a big thing with Mike Green and getting the heat on the quarterback. Slightly undersized, but not too really. I mean, Ezeraku, he's a little bit bigger than Ezeraku. I'm not concerned about that. And then the athletic profile speaks for itself. He had the awesome pre-draft process, obviously, starting at the Senior Bowl, and he was utterly dominant at Marshall this past season, like utterly dominant. And then you see him against some of these better guys in the one-on-one, and he's winning the reps as well. It's a game that converts, to the next level. The only question with him that I don't know, and I think this is like a team by team thing, is something I heard earlier in the process was the thing about what are the circumstances regarding him leaving Virginia. And there's different teams see that different, right? And they're going to do work on it, and they're going to come to their own conclusions of, stuff like that. But, just the eval on the field and what that guy projects to be to the next level on the field. I trust that. I trust that enough to put it at edge too.
Yeah, I agree there. It's like I haven't really been able to dig anything up. I know a lot of people have struggled to get any info, so it's sort of like it seems like it's going to be up to the teams to figure it out, and we'll just have to see. But on the field, love what you see there. So something that's come on the last, week, maybe week and a half, is the Falcons sniffing around offensive tackles like Kelvin Banks and stuff like that. So what do you think about that possibility? Because, I guess I would say never underestimate this team's ability to ignore the defense in the first round, because they've done it the last 4 years. But, they do have Michael Penix now, which, I know we had a very steamy conversation about that after the draft last year, about that pick in particular. But, the right tackle is more important now. A lot of people think Caleb McGarry is not going to be able to cut it as a pass protector. What do you think about the seriousness of offensive tackle being in play at 15?
I just think there's the bigger needs there, and again, in particular, the position that's been askewed for years and years now. And that's, why the pass rush has been what it is with the Falcon. But when you look at, and I get it, and you're doing your due diligence looking into a guy like Kelvin Banks, right? Because Kelvin Banks could be available there, and I think he's worth that slot. Like I gotta pull up my 500 board, but I Kelvin Banks
12.
11 or 12.
I have it open. Yeah, 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it certainly would be worth that slot. But again, you kick the can on the edge rusher again. What we're gonna take a round 3 flyer now? It's to me, that's bad enough that it screams action, right? Like an action right away there. And with the way the edge rusher class is, you're good through the end of the first round there. There will always be an edge prospect in this class, the first round, who is worth the squeeze of the slot. Once we get past a couple free spots there at the top, right? I suppose you could start at number 2, because or 3, that's where Carter, Abdul Carter's almost surely going to go. But we have, 6 or so strong first round type prospects at the edge position. So for me, that's, you don't want to be you have to get tunnel vision. You have to be myopic, because that's where mistakes may happen, of course. But I don't, in this class, as long as you take one of them 6 guys, I think you're going to be okay. And it could be, by the way, via a trade down. That's the other thing. Falcons are the other team that are in the Vikings boat here. In Minneapolis, we've been talking now for months about the lack of picks, overall, that the Vikings have. in their kitty, they have 4. I believe the Falcons have 5. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 sevens. Yeah.
Yeah. And two of them are 7s. Yeah. So like both teams being pick poor, if you had your druthers, you would trade down, right? Like trade down a little bit and have picks. And again, with the quality of the edge rushers available in round 1, I think you can. In fact, I think you could trade all the way to the top of the second and still feel good about taking an edge rusher. Like for instance, going back to the draft props, I believe James Pierce's draft prop is 32.5 for a slot prop. And I think I would take the over. I don't think he's going to have to wait long at all. Like he's going to be one of the first couple picks on Friday, if indeed he does slip out of the first round. But it's a scenario that I think is worth thinking about, because like in my last 2-round mock draft, then I could open myself to the more trades. And I've been hearing since the combine, if Shadir Sanders starts falling, watch out for the Browns. Like if he gets into the teens, watch out for the Browns, try to make a swing up, stop his fall. And it makes all the sense in the world. The Falcons at 15. I don't have any information on that outside of just,
right. Yeah.
the general, if we can, move down, like,
yeah. The buzz definitely seems that they're trying to make it clear that they want to move. So
it just is like their picks. It just is what it is. Like if anyone prior to the draft, you want to know the teams that have the best odds of trading up and trading down, I'll tell you the really easy way to figure that out. Just look at the amount of picks that each team has. The teams that where they're at the top, those are the teams that typically you see more aggressive moves up the board. In this case, this year, San Francisco will be moving up at some point. And I think you could see a swing from them from 11 or 12, wherever they're sitting. I mean, they could get into the top 5 if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And they've been monitoring the situation, we'll just say. But like with Atlanta, let's say in a scenario where Shadir Sanders falls there, you're going to be getting a call from Mr. Andrew Berry, and I know the trade that jives there, even with the small tax baked in for a move up and a small tax baked in for moving up for a quarterback. So you get the double little small tax. But because I ran it through the charts for that mock, the trade that jives, it's the number 33 overall pick from Cleveland, first pick in the second round, and then their 2 third-round picks. One of them's near, high in the round, and the other one's later on. And then the 4th round pick in 2026. That's what jives everything, including those taxes. And you do a trade like that, now the Falcons, your pick allotment is fleshed out. And as long as you could sort of, as long as one of those top 6 edges gets to 33, and I think there's a better than a coin flip shot that happens, you're going to feel pretty good about making that trade. You still get one of those top guys at that price point, and now you've acquired the couple extra day 3 picks, and again, you have your full pick allotment back, right? Like at that point now you've gone from 5 to 7 picks in this class. You've even picked up 1 next year as well, and you're still getting a day 1 starting edge. And I think James Pierce, like getting into the specific prospects, I think James Pierce would be absolutely perfect for Atlanta. He gets nitpicked because some people think he's a weird dude inside the building, and like you just hear stuff.
He might
like
be,
yeah, like and like sort of off on his own, or like what's James thinking? James kind of quiet. James kind of does his own thing. I didn't know any more specifics outside of that, but I thought it was utterly hilarious that James Pierce ran his 40 at the combine in the performance hoodie that New Era gave out.
Doesn't care, man.
Yeah, like and they asked him afterwards, like, James, no one has ever run the 40 at the combine with a hoodie on. Like, were you trying to make a statement, or were you trying to? And he was like, oh no, that's just what I wore under my jacket. And then I got here, and then they told me that they didn't have any other extra shirts, because they give them all to you right away. Like, and it's like he was the only guy that didn't pack. It's like, bro, this is the job interview of a lifetime. Millions of dollars are on the line for you today, and you just wore an undershirt of your performance hoodie. It's like, yeah, that's what I'm running.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's confidence. He's like, I don't really care, like I'm gonna run fast either way, so I don't really care, I mean, and he did, so it's I guess maybe he doesn't really care.
And look, we're talking about everyone's case. I mean, this is the case for any human being. This isn't specific to prospects, but like everyone has their own situation, right? Like, and when we talk about like off field, quote unquote, like sometimes it's, more menacing and it's more serious. And sometimes it's like a personality thing. Right. And I think the latter is more with James Pierce of like, we actually don't know what makes this guy tick. And sometimes we don't know what he's thinking, and he's a little aloof. And sometimes you see just weird stuff like James, what if I was his agent, I'd be like, bro, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I'm sure he got something from his agent with that.
Yeah. And he still ran the blazing time.
Yeah.
And almost assuredly. Yeah, like with what we know about the rules of like propulsion and the thing when the wind catches, what's that called? I haven't been on a boat for a while with the sails, but yeah, like the drag or whatever. Almost assuredly, he comes with a lower time. Now it might have just been 100th of a second or 200ths of a second, but almost assuredly he would have had a lower time in the regular shirt that everybody was running in. If not, why wouldn't everyone wear a parka when they're running?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so it's like James. But all that being said, the whole point I'm trying to make is personality quirk. You can work with that, right? Like there's some guys with their off field thing. It's like, I actually don't know if you can work with that. Like one of the guys in the last class that people kept DMing me about of like, maybe consider this a little bit more, maybe drop him down a little bit in your rankings, was Jermaine Burton. I kept getting people reaching out to me about Jermaine Burton, and like, it's not a fun person to hang around. He wherever he goes, it's not going to be fun to have him inside the building and stuff. And it turns out those people were right. Didn't he just get evicted from his apartment for non-payment? Or he's
not going well. Yeah,
it's not going well for Jermaine Burton. And what I'm trying to say about James Pierce, it's not that. It's not like, oh, this guy is extremely problematic. It's more the, what makes him tick kind of a thing, and what is he thinking, that sort of a stuff. But very, very gifted pass rusher. Very, very gifted. I mean, the first step quickness and then that speed around the edge, it doesn't get much better than that as far as pure speed rusher. He reminds me so much of Brian Burns, right? Like it's a little bit of a one-trick pony, but that trick is really, really neat, and it happens to be the exact thing that the Falcons need. And I will say too, for in Pierce's defense, he did get a bit better in run defense quietly. Yeah. This past year, and he doesn't get the credit for that. I think that, because, a lot of times you just hear people just totally be like, oh, he can only be on the field for pass rushing. I'm not sure that that's actually the case. I mean, he's not the run defender that Michael Williams or Shamar Stewart are, for instance, but they're different players, right? I mean, those guys, they're the super long levered, muscled up, sort of power ends that set the clean edge for you and this sort of a thing. And Pierce is a different game. He has the athleticism to disrupt, right? And so that's what he's trying to do. But he pulled the pin out of a grenade of some running concepts this year, which is pretty fun. Yeah. He gets back there real quick. So you see some surprise running backs sometimes are like, oh, what the fuck? I just literally touched the ball. Like, yeah.
No, his explosiveness is, it's a trump card. And like, if you're taking guys in the first round, if they've got a trump card, like that's what they can do. Like trump cards work in the NFL. Guys that are sort of on the average area in college, like that may or may not translate. You don't know about that, but guys that are elite, that typically will translate. And that's what you can say about James Pierce. It's like, yeah, that's going to work. It's going to continue to work. And like you said, he's probably running a 4.4 flat without the hoodie, right? Or close to it. So, a total freak of nature. Just seems like a weird dude, and like maybe you can work with that. I mean, Cam Newton was a weird dude. That turned out okay. They seem like a little different, but it's like teams get freaked out by that sometimes. They're like, oh, does he love the game enough, and so on and so forth. And we'll see it. But yeah, I agree. Like James Pierce is like a little bit scary, but I'm in on him as well. Like I'm totally fine with him. When I did a trade down mock with the Browns, Walter Nolan was still there. I was like, okay, hell yeah, let's go. It's not an edge rusher, but like, I mean, I'm not looking Walter Nolan in the mouth and saying, no, thank you. I'm sure.
Pass rush.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So,
I mean, it's coming a different way, but yeah, that interior pressure, that has a tendency to help your entire pass rush, right? When you have, and just look at Aaron Donald's career, right? Like, it just is what it is. You again, pulling the pin out of the grenade right after the ball is snapped.
Yeah. So I agree. Like it's good to shout out James. Like guys that don't care about football don't care about the run in particular. Like these pass rushers that you think of, they're all flash and they just want this. That's not the case with him. Like he worked hard, I think, to become a better run defender, to read the keys better, to be more physical. And he's never going to be like you said, Michael Williams, who's 260 and, 34-inch arms or whatever. And, like it's just a different game. But Michael Williams probably never going to be the pass rusher Pierce is either. And Williams, I think, can be a better pass rusher than what we've seen him do so far in college.
Yeah,
obviously,
I would agree with that too. Yeah,
yeah. I like Williams as well. So but like you said, there's a lot of guys here that are in this range that could fall. Whether that's 33, and yeah, I mean, if that kind of compensation is involved, the Falcons I think would be foolish not to take that trade.
1,000%.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I did want to mention it. I mean, it's not particularly relevant to Atlanta specifically, but I always love when analysts are willing to put out like a hot take, and it's not just being hot. It's like Shedeur over Cam. You don't see that. So I'm really curious about that. Like, so obviously I think if the number one quarterback on your board, and they're one spot different, you have Shedeur 8 and Cam 9. So it's not like you're saying, oh, Cam sucks or something. Not at all. Undraftable, obviously. He's my QB2. Can't draft him. But, I'm curious. Like, so obviously you would be really happy, for the Browns to come away with your QB1. I mean, at 15, that would make a ton of sense.
For sure. Yeah. And I just think there's a lot of bad narratives out there about Shedeur. I'm not really going out on a limb saying that, but I think that obfuscates people or draws their attention away from the truth of his on-field evaluation. I think people like some of the people that have the job that I do, I think they have a hard time unspooling the one from the other, that their preconceived notions about Shedeur and his father and, all that sort of stuff from just what they're seeing on tape. I try to do it the best I can. I'm not saying that I don't have human bias either, but I think when you just look at the tape and you compare the games and then you look at the body of the work, everything like that, and the translation of the games to the NFL, I just like Shedeur a little bit more than Cam Ward. Shedeur, it's elite accuracy, it's elite placement. That's what his game is. He puts it on the hands. He shades the ball away from the defenders, like nuanced stuff. Right, the pinpoint stuff, leading the receiver into space consistently. You very, very rarely see a guy have to slow when he's running and then reach back for the ball or go outside of his frame for it. It's always right there on the money. Now, he doesn't have the juice in his arm that Cam Ward does. So I understand why, and he wasn't in as sexy of a situation last year, right? So I understand why, people like Cam Ward more, but I don't. And again, just a bit, but like with Shedeur, you get the play in, play out consistency, the chain mover guy who also takes care of the ball at an elite level. Shedeur played behind Swiss cheese offensive lines the last 2 years at Colorado. Colorado didn't have a running game, so the defenses always knew what was coming. They could always pin their ears back, and Shedeur faced elevated pressure because of that. And then they want to spend all of his evaluation not talking about his game, but they want to talk about the pressures. I don't ever hear someone give the context of this was one of the shittiest offensive lines in the Power 5 or the Power 4 each of the 2 years that he was there. And again, defense knew what was coming, so they could send the heat. They knew the offensive line that they were going against as well. And I think, a criticism you hear about him, he lacks pocket presence. I totally disagree with that. He's really, really good at not only noticing the pressure while keeping his eyes up, he's good at evading it, right? I mean, that's what he uses athleticism for. The other unfair criticism, well, there's a lot of them, but the people that were like, oh, Shadeur's not athletic, it's like, get out of here, man. Like,
yeah,
he's the son of one of the most athletic athletes in American sport history, number one. Those are okay genetics. And then he ran a 4.65 coming out of high school, which is like 97 percentile.
That's a great time for a quarterback. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, especially at the high school level. And then Shedeur, he doesn't love to go beyond the line of scrimmage. Right. It's like, he wants to be, again, using the athleticism, make people miss by the receivers, second, third bites at the apple, that sort of a thing. He'll slam on the brakes, the line of scrimmage. He gets up there because there will be defenders that start getting sucked downhill just by reflex. And then he can hit someone that's open. I think that's another cool trick of his, but he's done cool things to work around the pressure. And the point that nobody ever makes about him is what happens when he plays behind even a competent offensive line, right? Or an offensive line that is just as good as the defensive lines that it's going against. Because it's been a while for Shedeur since that's been the case. I tend to believe that his game's going to play up. Either way, I trust his game because you get the play and play out consistency. Again, the chain mover guy takes care of the ball. With Cam Ward, you for sure get the more explosive plays. Absolutely. The juice in his arm, and he's got all kinds of gumption as well. My non-sports, sometimes I do in the non-sports comps, and my non-sports comp for Cam Ward was John Wick. That's how he plays the position. It's kicking down the door and then bullets are flying, right? And he'll ask questions later, kind of a thing. And there are moments, of course, says, Kevin, where it's like, oh my God, right? He'll make some throws that other people absolutely would not have, right? And like wouldn't even attempt. And then, leading to some of those explosive plays, or his willingness to test windows down the field, or even intermediate. Like he'll fit it in the keyhole there. Just muscle a ball in. All the arm angles he can throw from it's cool stuff. But my supposition with Cam Ward is he of course he had the elevated turnover rate. Last year, I believe his PFF turnover worthy play rate was 3 times higher than Shadir Sanders. 3 times, right? We're talking factors of multiples here. No one cares about that. Okay. Now he had the higher explosive play rate for sure. Right. And again, he will lead to his offense to more explosive plays. That's absolutely the case. However, nobody has adequately explained this to me. All the people that are, the Cam Ward, is, awesome, for sure, number 1 pick guy is in the NFL. How are you going to project that you can get his explosive play rate to keep rising, or even just stay where it is, while lowering the turnover worthy play rate? I don't think that's possible because of the way he plays the position. I think you can get even more explosive plays, but then the turnover rate is going to go up in kind. I think you could also lower the turnover worthy rate, but to do that, you would be lowering the explosive play rate in kind. I think this is a situation like a Brett Favre situation, right? It's live by the sword, die by the sword. And you're going to have to put up with some turnovers that make you want to put your fist through the wall. We were seeing that even last year. I mean, you can point back to multiple games, and one of the ones he does where it's actually it's consistent enough where it's like, dude, and it's also like, can you break this habit? He has one where he's scrambling, and when he gets towards the line of scrimmage, I said Shadir, he slams on the brakes. Cam Ward, he don't like giving up on the play. He does not like to throw the ball away. And he will tuck and run a little bit. But he would much prefer to throw the ball to the third level of the field. And one of the things you saw with him when he get close to the line of scrimmage, attempting literally impossible throws. No human arm could make it. And he would do the throwing it across the field, trying to hit a guy 20 yards upfield, opposite the opposite hash. And you would see the ball die on him in the middle of the field. And then safeties getting the easiest interception of their season. Right, just waltzing in front of the thing, and then we flipped the field there. But that live by the sword, die by the sword thing. It's that direct thing that's leading to the explosive play rate. So I just think Cam's game, it's a bit more, roller coaster. Shadir's is more, it's even road ahead. So I like I said, I just prefer Shadir just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to last long in the NFL if you're a turnover machine. That's just the way it is. Teams are very quick to pull guys that are just putting the ball in harm's way constantly. But we also know NFL teams take the cheese on these type of prospects all the time, right? Like they want the sexy, big arm, all this. Everyone's looking for the next Josh Allen, while ignoring that like Josh Allen is probably the only example of Josh Allen working out like in existence. So I like the contrary take here. I think that Shadir's probably closer to Cam than people want to admit. But yeah, it's really easy to just chase the upside. And NFL teams are notorious for doing it, and most of the time it doesn't work out.
Yeah, it's great. Some prospects, it's like they just got selected by the media or by the draft industrial complex to get nitpicked their entire process, and like we're to the point where it becomes absurd. And Shadir is a great example of that this year, but of course he's not the only one, and that happens to people every year. And then you get the opposite of prospects where, for whatever reason, they're given the benefit of the doubt on everything, and it's not even brought up. And if that was on someone else's profile, they'd be getting nitpicked for it. But in this case, it's not. And that, to me, that's more Cam Ward. This process, the things that you hear with the other quarterbacks, it's not brought up with him. Another one is, Cam Ward, he wanted to declare for last year's draft. In fact, he did. Right. I mean, he came out and that was when he was at Wazoo, and he's like, I'm declaring for the draft. Well, then he comes
that.
He comes to find out, because he had asked for the advice from the, board or whatever. Be a day 3 pick. Sure, come on out. You'll be a day 3 pick. So he probably would have gone in the 5th round or so. It would have been, if he was in that class, I believe he would have gone a little bit after Spencer Rattler. And Spencer Rattler that was round 5, correct?
I think so. Yeah, it was like a huge gap between the last quarterback and Spencer Rattler.
And Cam Ward would not have been in the middle of that one. I'm pretty sure that teams would have had Rattler graded higher than him. So maybe even the 6th round for Cam Ward. But anyway, so that was a year ago, right? And then what ended up happening was the Miami, their NIL collective, and they always got money down there, and they sensed sort of the opportunity, and they were able to give Cam Ward plenty more than he would have made as a rookie, right, under that deal. And so then he transfers to Miami, and he found himself in the greatest situation of all time. You're playing in a Shannon Dawson offense. Shannon Dawson modified air raid. He was at Houston before working with Dana Holgorsen. Their offense put up bazooka numbers every single year. Tank Dell had the ludicrous numbers in that offense is one example of this. And so you're playing in that system with 3 NFL wide receivers in this class. All 3 of them were at the combine. I spoke to each one of them, Restrepo, George, and the other one, Sam Brown, who came over with Dawson from Houston, was originally a Houston guy. So you have 3 NFL receiver from this class. Then you have a round 2 tight end in Elijah Arroyo. Then you have a probable round 3 running back, and Damian Martinez was your starting running back. That another NFL running back, he was playing there as well. We'll see him in a year or 2 in the draft. And then you're playing behind a really good offensive line. Mario Cristobal teams are always good in the trenches. And by the way, lastly, people are like, oh, Shadir Sanders, he was in the Big 12. It's like, have you taken a fucking look at the ACC recently? Like, okay, okay. So the Big 12 is utterly trash, but the ACC is the SEC now, I guess. Right? I mean, take a look at Cam Ward's schedule. It's like, right? I mean, and so again, these things where it's with Shadir, every little thing is nitpicked and every little thing is taken out of context. And with Cam, it's like, nope, it's all good. Perfect prospect.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the upside, right? Everyone just falls for that. And they're like, oh, well, because there's upside, we'll overlook it. And they think Shadir's upside is more limited. So they're going to nitpick everything and be like, well, because he doesn't have the upside,
it's something that they've decided, right? Like usually players that were in college for 5 years and they didn't have the true breakout until the last year. Usually it's like, oh, it took till the 5th year till he became the true star. And
1 year wonder,
People talk about the context, sometimes unfairly, but they talk about it. But not with Cam Ward. No, Cam Ward, he's allowed to have his late breakout in the absolutely ideal situation. But it's nope, that's him. He's God's gift to football. And again, I don't have anything, against Cam Ward.
No, you have him 1 spot behind Shadir.
Number 9 overall on my board. I just get annoyed that all this different shit with Shadir. It's like, oh, this guy's a bum. It's like, no, he's not. And then Cam Ward's God's gift to football. The reality is way different on those 2 guys than the perception. Is my whole point. Yeah.
Much closer together than it seems to be the perception. Now, you got to be careful with all this positive quarterback talk. We don't want the Falcons to get any ideas about adding another quarterback at this point. So we got to tamp that down,
I will.
Yeah. Careful.
Hopefully someone I mean, for the Vikings, Terrible Terry's going to have to cover most of that contract. We're going to have to accept a late day 3, probably not in this class, the next one. But if that was the case, absolutely. Like if I would have to call old Kirko. Like we would have to have a fireside chat there of bro, you're a backup now. Like, you coming in, this will not be a competition. You are going to be a mentor. You are going to be a QB2. And you have to be okay with that. You need to embrace that. Like, if I wasn't 1,000,000,000% comfortable with that, if I'm the Vikings, I wouldn't do it. But like, I know that Kirko likes it here. And he was, he's backup for the Falcons. There's not a ton of situations out there where he steps in. He's the starter right now, right? Like
he's basically waiting for an injury. That's kind of his hope, I think. So
and I think that's Terrible Terry's hope as well.
It's all of our hopes. Yeah,
exactly.
A lot on this.
So. But if those things are jived, I mean, like the Vikings, we know their price point for the backup quarterback. It's going to be somewhere between 5 to 8. maybe
Right.
9. Like they don't, because uh, we all think we're pretty sure that the Vikings will be signing Asante Samuel Jr. in a move that will be announced publicly the Monday after he'll be announced with the draft class. There's a lot of things here locally, a lot of different smoking guns with regards to this. But anyway, like whole point being the Vikings have more cap space right now on paper than I believe they actually do, because I believe that some of it has been promised out. And so that's sort of where you're at. Well, if Terrible Terry, you can pay Kirk down to that, where the Vikings, will take 6-7 mil of that off your hands this coming, however you do the books on that. And then, a day 3 pick. I think it could work out if Kirk was down with that.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I think that could always be a backup plan too. Like if they can't, if an injury doesn't happen, which personally seems unlikely. This is just the nature of the beast in the NFL. We're just getting more and more injuries, it seems like, or they just always happen. Like there's going to be somebody, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see what Kirk wants to do, if he's willing to be a backup or if he wants to hold out for a starting job. But sooner or later he may have to just decide if he wants to be paid to be a backup here or somewhere else. So I'm curious what will go down there, but it'll be interesting. And yeah, with moving to day 2 here a little bit, did want to get your take. I know you have Jared Wilson quite high. The Falcons obviously let Drew Dahlman walk for a massive deal to the Bears. Jared Wilson's your OC1. He's well within the second round. It seems like consensus has him as more of a third rounder, where I think like you could say maybe talent wise he's like mid to late day 2, but because he's the number 1 center, he's gonna go in the second round. Like it's gonna happen. So I'm curious what you think about that fit as a possibility on day 2 for Atlanta.
I'm a big fan of his game, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Falcon. Not just because he's the clear, if you don't consider Zabel a center, right? Like some people just because we got to. I listed Zabel as a guard, but outside of that, the pure centers, Wilson's easily center, and I do mean easily center one. Yeah. I mean, it is a gap there.
A lot of people went back to school.
Yeah, like that. One guy that would be a fallback for me that I like more than other people, and I don't understand why this guy doesn't get more love, but I like Drew Kendall.
Yeah, he just came to Atlanta for a visit like last week. So yeah,
there you go. Like that would be and he's my center too. But outside of that, if Atlanta doesn't come out with one of those 2 guys or Zabel, right, and then the idea of converting him to center, what are we doing at center next year? Right, like
Ryan Newsel, baby, newsflash.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. But like with Wilson, very good fit for the zone blocking system. Great athlete and 1-year starter, but he was very impressive last season. The pressure rate he allowed, I believe, was by far the lowest in the interior class, and I do not believe that he gave up a sack either. And in the zone running system, that in terms of the run blocking, he can get out there and he can hit spots. So yeah, for me, he was late round 2 on my board, 58 overall. But anywhere around there, and even if I was the Falcons, I'd even maybe go slightly above that. If you feel like you have to guarantee his services, but anywhere around there, latter half of the second round, certainly if he got into round 3, I actually don't think he will. Because of what we're talking, the market factors here are really working in his favor, right? Like, because again, if you need immediate help at center, you run out of options real quick. I know that Wilson can go in and play right away, even though he was just a 3-year guy, but how well he played against top competition last year and the athletic profile, I'm not concerned about that. He'll be day 1 starter. After that, Kendall could maybe, but after that, I ain't confident in any of them guys. Right. Yeah. Like, and some of them aren't fit for the Falcons system. So yeah, if I'm the Falcons, that would be, for me, if I have perfect draft for them, it would involve trading down to the end of the first round or early second round, like the thing we were talking about with the Browns, picking up the extra picks, then getting your edge rusher first, and then getting Wilson. Right. I mean, because right away you have greatly improved your trenches on both sides of the ball with day 1 starters. And after that, we'll see.
You got 2/3 left to throw a corner or safety or defensive tackle, whatever you want. So
that's right. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple positions there for the Falcons, certainly that they could use strengthening, but I think there's 2 that again are screaming out for we need a day 1 starter. So that would be the perfect scenario, I think.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense for them, and to wrap up, we haven't really mentioned the corners and safeties. I think those are definitely like lower needs for them, given that, Mike Hughes actually crazy. They moved Mike Hughes back outside, and he was a good corner. Wow. It's like the Chiefs showed you how to do that years ago, and everyone's been trying to make him a slot corner his entire career. But whatever, I'm not sour about that at all. But yeah, I mean, curious if you have any like date. I mean, I think the Falcons really like Malachi Starks. I think he would be like an option if their top guys were gone at 15 or after a trade down in particular. They could really use that sort of. You have him comped to Brian Branch, which is what I was thinking as well for that. So hat tip there for sure. But there's a lot of guys on day 2 as well. I know you have Xavier Watts pretty high too. I like him.
Xavier Watts, yeah.
And there's a number of corners too. I mean, I like Jahdae Barron as well. I think he's another option, at 15 or in a trade down scenario. But anyone else sort of that's sort of under the radar that you think could be like a day 2 or even early day 3 because the Falcons need a slot more than anything at this point. So.
Yeah, I'll give you a 3 for day 2. Ravel. I think is going to fall. The kid from ECU, I think, is going to be a second round pick, and we'll, it's going to be informed by what teams got on the medicals. He tore his ACL in practice in September, and what were the each individual team. What's your take on that? But that guy for sure, he's a first round talent. On my board, I'm 32. I would have had him slots above that were it not for the injury. And maybe even like 12. To 15 to 16 spots above that. I mean, the very good player, very, very good player. And he can press you on the outside. He's got the crazy long levers. That's why people comp him to Tariq Woolen because of the frame, the athleticism. He's kind of a silo corner in some ways. I don't know if I want him trailing all over the field, but I really like the athletic profile. I really like him pressing off of the line. He can funnel you where he wants you to go, impede your progress, stuff like that. So he'd be the one higher than the other injury concern one. Where does Benjamin Morrison go? Right. He has the more problematic one. It's a hip, and it's another one we don't know. Right. Yeah. The medical teams or the NFL teams, they have a better idea, at least what their medical team's opinion is. So there's an idea that Morrison could fall into round 3, if it's viewed as like a real shoot the moon kind of a thing. But just as far as the on field, he's top 20 prospect. He was awesome when he was on the field in college. He played right away. The son of a longtime NFL player. He's got the bloodlines. And again, there was a lot of games in college. He was the best player on the field. And then you get the hip injury at the end. But if, he's falling and your medical team is at least comfortable with the risk at the price point where you'd have to do it, that's a guy that I'm very interested in bringing in. And then the last one, I figure let's toss in one that's not injured. How about that? We'll go a little off the grid. But I like the game of Quincy Riley. Because my type for corners, outside of like the freaky ones, like the project like Ravel, is I like the smaller, crazy, feisty ones that are in your face off the line, and then they're talking to you, and it's just really difficult to shake them. Mekhi Blackman, who the Vikings took a couple years ago, that's kind of the way he plays and the way he played at USC. Quincy Riley from Louisville is kind of, he's not Jair Alexander, but there are a lot of similarities there, as far as the corner is going to get up in your face, play physical, and plays bigger than his size. So I like the way that he covers. I like his feet. It's difficult to get separation against Quincy Riley. So he'd be the other one I'd toss out for that. And then if we go to safeties, I got more scandalous safety takes, I think, than probably my cornerback takes. The top of the board, I'm probably not like crazy off the grid on any of these, but the safety position, I had different takes, I think, than some other folks. If we got time for some safety talk.
Yeah, throw it out. Let's do it.
You and I agree on Starks is your safety one, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Starks, Watts.
You got Watts?
Yeah, I got Watts too as well. Yeah. Bro, I think our top 3 are the same. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I might be. It was like Tom Hanks and the one where he's stranded.
Yeah.
Out on an island. Like
yep.
Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that. Great minds, Kev.
Yes.
On that. So I'll give this spiel to the audience and not you, because if you got him there, you're seeing the same things that I am. I don't understand why people don't talk about Xavier Watts more, because his ability to flip the field and disrupt passing lanes, get there, is pretty special. And you hear people trying to like make, nitpick his interception count. He had 13 over the last 2 years, easily led the FBS. It'll be, he gets fortunate to be around. No, you don't get fortunate enough to,
maybe a few, but
maybe a few, but at that level, he's always at the catch point.
Yeah.
He's always at the freaking catch point. And, you watch his all 22, you see that kid triggering downhill before the ball's left the quarterback's hands. He sees it really well, but then that instant trigger, when he knows, all right, pulling the trigger, takes a straight line path, and he tends to get to the catch points. And when he does, it's not safety against receiver like it is with these other guys. It is wide receiver against wide receiver. Xavier Watt's a position convert, right? And his ball skills, again, are wide receiver-esque. The cool thing about his acclimation to safety and stuff, it's how well he sees the field and how quickly he can trigger. So that stuff in the pass game, I think it's really special. Like I said, the run defense stuff, I think he gets too nitpicked for it. And I don't think people talk about the nuance enough.
Yeah, it was better this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and people will just be like, "Oh, he's not he's bad in run defense," and they'll just sort of leave it at that. I don't think that's an accurate way of putting it for people. Because you get in your head of oh, he's a finesse free safety, he's a finesse, center fielder, because that's typically how those guys are talking about. He doesn't want to get involved, doesn't want to get his pants dirty. It's the opposite. That kid's like a kamikaze running the alley. He's very aggressive with it, and he triggers quick too, just like he does with the pass thing. It's similar in terms of that. He gets caught with the pursuit angle sometimes because, interestingly, I don't know what your take on this was, Kevin, but watching it, you'd see him get out of position sometimes on these running concepts, even though right after the snap it is the same thing of that really quick trigger that you see with him in the pass game. And the more I watched him, I was like, at the start of the things, whether it run or pass, it looks the same. And why is he not as effective with the run thing? And the reason why, it's self-evident. You think about it. It's because when the ball leaves the quarterback's hands, it never changes direction midair, right? It's not going to go 10 yards downfield and then all of a sudden veer to the left, and now it's going to a guy on the opposite side of the hash. When you throw the ball, it travels a straight line path. Right. And so Xavier, where the ball's going at that point. Right. And you can do your straight line thing. The problem is he does the exact same thing on the runs, and he can get himself out of depth when the direction of the ball carrier changes because of that. Right. And very easily. There is no accommodation in the way that he pursues in run defense for the idea of the ball carrier changing directions, which happens on a decent, percentage of runs. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it's the thing of all of a sudden it changes that way. He's gone too deep. And so now you have to chase literally from behind, but you also have to get across the field. And so he's run himself out of the play. And then the other thing is running himself into traffic. The thing I would I'm not a coach or anything, but and the way I would say it is super stupid. Coach would be way better. But I would just be bro, you have to make more accommodations on the run pursuit. You can take some depth and you can focus a bit on the blockers there, and try to avoid them. Because when an offensive lineman gets his hands on, it's over for him. It's when you get shot in the video game and it reloads your screen, it's
wasted. Yeah.
When an offensive lineman touches Watts, that's what it is, right? Yeah, and he's on the ground looking up at the sky, but he's fearless, and that's the whole point I want to make. Very aggressive too when he gets there, and he does get there, right? Because on plays, he's not running himself out on every single one. If the ball carrier goes where the concept's designed, he's going to get there very, very quickly and aggressively try to crash the doors there. But I just wanted to make that point. But the thing about his value in the pass game is such that for me, it demanded putting at safety too, because there's such a value on flipping the field in the NFL and beyond the flipping the field. Just getting there and disrupting passes. There was obviously balls that he got his hand on or was able to disrupt the catch point, leading to more incompletions. The guy that I think is overrated, it's a Manwari. And it's for me because they're flipped. A Manwari is amazing in run defense, right? That's the guy that you play closer to the line, and then he's the sideline to sideline mutant. That's where some of the play. It's oh my god, it's like a truly souped up. That's where the mutant thing comes, because he looks like a mutant linebacker, right? It's like a throwback, but it's like a Ferrari from the future, right? It's you get sort of that. Love that part, and it's not a surprise because he played linebacker at Columbia High School. You know, I mean, he stayed home for college, but he was a linebacker in high school, and that's the way that he plays the position. In coverage, people, they lose it with him that in similar, you know, you lose the context with Watts, and then you're just like, oh, he stinks at that with, you know, with the run defense with Watts. With Amanwari, people, I've seen this assumption that he's good in coverage because of the flash plays. Right. Last year, 4 interceptions, 2 of them were pick sixes, and he has cool moments because he triggers quick. Right. And he's got the long arms. He got the huge frame. It's problematic when he gets to the catch point and he can make plays on the ball. And then you have the free, you know, it's like a tight end at that point, but a freakishly athletic tight end. Right. Yeah. And now he's difficult to tackle. You go on the other way. The problem is you cannot trust him in the slot in coverage. Unless it's just zone, you're dropping into a zone. You cannot trust him with his, more accurately stated, I'm sorry, because you could put him there for zone. You cannot trust him with his back to the quarterback.
Yeah.
We've seen it. He gets singed. It's not going to work. You put him in man coverage, you know, the slot receiver is going to eat his lunch. It'll be free completions. You also can't trust him deep. You can't trust him as the free safety guy. The instincts aren't good enough. He makes mistakes. And it's going to lead to big plays the other way. It just is. So the way that you have to use him in coverage, it's essentially as a drop linebacker. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's what he is. He exists
like a star type of guy. Yeah.
Exactly. Like he exists right on that line where there's a demarcation point between linebacker and safety. He's right on it.
Yeah.
And I'm not calling him a tweener because you get some of the really cool linebacker, you know, I mean, again, in run defense, he is an all-pro linebacker kind of, right? If you just look at like that aspect of it, but in coverage, you have to, you know, again, kind of use him as a linebacker and drop him into the zone. And the thing I'll give him credit for, prior to last year, I didn't even like hiding him in zone because they'd find him and his instincts were really poor. You know, as far as that area of the game, I did think they got better this year, and he does show the thing of trigger downhill. I even saw him a couple of times. He'd carry guys to the edge of his zone and then he'd go back up for a guy who is now coming into the front part of it. Like, I love the dudes that will, like, you start to see it. Like, there's guys that do that every time, just seamlessly. Then there's other guys, you know, and to see Amanwari get to the point where he could carry someone to the depth and then like, oh yeah, that's the end of my zone. Oh, that guy's, and then go back down. I like to see that stuff, right? It's like, you know, it's like the first steps of a child kind of, you know, it's like he's starting to get it a little bit. And then the jump in the pass lanes, like I said, with those long arms, you will get some flash plays. That's going to happen in the NFL too. He's going to have some, you know, there's going to be pick sixes. He might flip games, but there's also going to be, again, you have to know that you're deploying him in sort of a low leverage role with your coverage scheme. That's not a super duper valuable thing. And what he's doing, there will also be consistency things there. You'll get the flash plays, but there's going to be times where it's like, bro, like they were obviously throwing to that dude. Like, you know, you didn't come downhill quick enough. And, you know, these sorts of things, or he'll get himself, you know, out of position, stuff like that. So keep him in coverage, low leverage. And then it's going to be a little bit up and down, admittedly with some crazy flash plays. So that's my take on him and Manwari, but that's why I got him behind Watts.
Yeah. I think that's very fair, but maybe it's just me. I feel like athletic testing at safety is kind of like it's probably like the most overrated testing of like any position. Cause people will look at like Watts and Malachi Starks and see the RAS and the fives and like, oh, these guys, like, you know, can we really trust them to play deep? Yes, absolutely. You can. Yeah, like because at safety, it's all about reading. It's all about reacting, and you can make up for any athletic limitations quite easily by just being correct with your analysis of the play, able to click and close and all that. And that's why you'll see a guy like Amanwari, who's got alien athleticism, look a lot slower on the back end than the guys ahead of him who are running 4.5s, you know?
That's right.
And that's just the way it is at safety, like that the instincts are so critical to making coverage work. But yeah, I mean, I think we see the safety class exactly the same. And, you know, if you can't get Starks, I would love Watts at 46, you know, to the Falcons. I think I had him I just did a show on like the top value picks, and that was one of mine in the second round. It's like, look,
it'd be great.
I know everybody wants pass rush. I know everybody wants defensive line, but like you can't look the other way on a guy like Xavier Watts if he falls there. And, you know, he can play some slot too. I mean, I don't think that's his home in the NFL, but if you needed a slot guy, I mean, he's played, I think like 400 or 500 slot snaps over the past couple of years. So, you know, he can do it. He can do it for you in a pinch. But yeah, him and Starks both, I think, are both, deep safeties ideally that can come up and do some nickel stuff. I think Starks in particular, he just moves different. He can play the slot. Like I don't know what to say. Like it's hard for me to describe it, but I just say like he just moves so smoothly and he's so quick to diagnose. Like he can do whatever he wants, but
yeah, he's so smooth with the movement, and then he sees it before it happens, and so that tends to be a thing that overcomes the quote unquote lack of measurables, right? Like when you have your 3 steps downhill before a Manwari has even started, that's how you tend to beat, winning races against guys that maybe are faster than you if you get the head start, and he gets a head start every time, right? And then people, we talk about the freakishness of a Manwari. See, the last thing that I'll say to shit on the kid. Sorry, Manwari, if you're watching this, but
he's 40, guys. He's not undraftable or anything. He's 40 on the board. So
let me put it this. Everybody talks about the 10 reps, but let me put it this way: there was a reason that he skipped out on the agilities. The side to side. It's not the freakish thing that it is north to south with the Manwari, which is part of the reason that he exists on that line. Right. And so, but like, Starks, in particular, the agility there, and then the fluidity of his mind, like in the play, like, again, staying with the beat of the thing and staying one step ahead, he can come off the path and then go and do the other thing when a new danger has presented itself. Yeah. Right. Like there's, it's like like water, the Bruce Lee, there's no rigidity there, not athletically, certainly not, but then also the way he sees the field, the way he plays, like in the plays.
Yeah, no, he's a special guy. Like he's one of my, my guys in this class. Like I think I have him even higher on my board than you. Like I think I have him as like a top 15 guy, but I know you also really respect his game. Clearly,
I do.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the Falcons they need to get a defensive player in the first round. We need to stop dicking around. Like that, what I said the other day on the show was like, look, like everybody keeps saying like, oh well, we keep telling the defense like you just got to get by, right? The offense will be good. We just need the defense to get by. Sooner or later, we need to tell the offense like, you guys have 4 first-round picks over the last 4 years. You got to get by. You got to figure out a way to make this work. The defense is drowning. These guys, we need to help these guys out for God's sake. So I hope we can get started with that this year.
And it would help. It helps Penix, right? Like when getting into these constant firefights, it pulls you a little bit out of what your base offense is, right? Like and let's we always think about we got to get him help, get him a receiver, get him a yada yada, get him a center in this case. But like you can also help a young quarterback by improving a sieve of a defense. It is not helpful for a young quarterback to have to keep up with the opposing offense that can just run through the defense like a hot knife through butter. So, there's a couple of positions there that the Falcons could, not only improve it in a vacuum, but where it tangibly brings up that defense. So, they could do cool stuff in the draft. I'm interested to see what they do early. Again, if it's me, and there's anything out there where I can get that trade down, but stay within the top 34, 35 picks or so. And I absolutely would consider, moving to the end line of that, or the Browns thing like we talk about, because then you can pick up the way more picks. I mean, the Browns example, we tossed out 3 day 2 picks this year, and then a round 4 next year, that would be a nice way to convert your chips, but there's a couple of different paths that they could go. And so they're going to be a team to monitor for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. I think the key is probably a quarterback falling there. I don't know if anyone's coming up for Jackson Dart necessarily, but stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened in the NFL, so maybe there might be some team, or Tyler Shuck,
The Tyler Shuck, that's the one I don't get. The other ones I get, but the Tyler Shuck, I don't understand. It's like the guy is 1,000,000 years old. He didn't break out till his last season. The 6 years before that, it was one season-ending injury after another at Texas Tech. And Oregon, his original school, didn't want him. Yeah. I mean, they did when they signed him as a recruit, but they thought he was going to be the next Justin Herbert, and he was not it. They started Anthony Brown over him. They benched him knowing he was going to transfer so they could start Anthony Brown as a limited guy, because at least he wouldn't screw up. Like Shuck, there's been issues in the past under pressure and reading the field. Some of that stuff, you go to Jeff Brom, he's not talked about as much like he should be as a quarterback whisperer. Jeff Brom consistently sends guys to the NFL that don't have great physical tool sets. Aiden O'Connell being one of the recent ones, right? So like it was a very good system to get into for Tyler Shock. So I'm a little bit concerned there. The older guy has durability concerns, didn't break out until late. Of course, if his name was Cam Ward, we wouldn't be talking about any of these things. It would be irrelevant to discuss.
Got him. No, yeah. I mean,
I brought it full circle, Cal.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. We finished. We started with the Cam Ward takes and we ended on Tyler Shuck.
It was like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, where it's like they bring it all back around at the end.
Yes. Any board that's got my man Kyle McCord above Tyler Shuck is good in my book. So
there it is. Baby.
But no, Shuck is fine as a backup. Like I'm fine taking a chance there. Sure. That I think you have him as basically a 4th round pick. So it's not like where these guys are undraftable guys. It's just the 2nd round hype. It's just like
miss me with that. Miss me with
that. I learned my lesson with Desmond Ridder. Okay, like I'm over that now. We're not going down that road anymore.
It was a hard lesson to learn. I know
it was. Sometimes you just got to take your medicine. But
that's it.
Yeah, Thor. It's been a lot of fun as always. We covered a lot of guys. It's not the quarterbacks. Maybe not as relevant to the Falcons specifically, but the makeup of these quarterbacks and who could be potentially coming up, particularly for Shedeur, it seems like it's going to could be really impactful to Atlanta. So I'm glad we covered that and some trade scenarios and some prospects. Anything else you want to get to before we sign off?
Sure. One more. Talk about the Browns, the potential if Shedeur falls down and how Atlanta could, be involved with that. But we don't know with Shedeur, right? Like he absolutely could go in the top 10. And once now this doesn't involve the Falcons, but we'll stay with the quarterbacks and with the Browns. I haven't heard this discussed a ton either, but and this isn't something I have information on. This is just following the dots, but they're so obvious. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. The Browns, you have a ton of draft equity, like we talked about after the 2nd pick. We know the 2nd pick going to be Travis Hunter. Discuss the Shedeur Sanders thing, which is something that I've heard. But this other one, let's say Shedeur goes in the top 10. Cleveland can't trade up there, even with the amount of draft equity they have. That's why it needs to be in the teens. So if he's gone there, I believe the target is Jalen Milroe. And there's multiple data points that I could point to of why I think this is the case. Number one, Jalen Milroe being invited to the NFL draft is the most shocking invite of the last decade. That one came totally out of left field. I would a bunch of different texts, phone calls that day. No one could get to the bottom of it. No one had heard anything. Like it was just a true stunner, right? Yeah. And like in modern day, we don't get a lot of stunners where it's just like, okay, the way we were viewing reality, there's one thing where it doesn't jive with that. And so there's something that we don't know, right? And in that one, the NFL is clearly telling you, we think he has a legitimate shot to go in round 1. Perhaps even we think he's going to go in round 1. And that also leads to there's at least one mystery team in on Jalen Milroe, because why would the NFL think that if they were reading the media? Yeah. If they were reading the media, they never in a million years would have sent Jalen Milroe invite, and they don't make mistakes. So clearly they were told, right, like, to make accommodation for that or whatever. So who is the mystery team? Well, you look at the quarterback needy teams and obviously we're not talking about the Titans because they will have taken care of theirs by that point. But it seems like the Giants are going to go another direction, at least with the 3rd pick. And then you go to the Steelers at 22, wherever they are. Yeah. Steelers 3 years ago was that they had the 1st round pick, and it could have been Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. They take Kenny Pickett. Now you're saying 3 years later that they would take Milroe over Dart. That the same people, the decision-making process that led to the one, it would have to be totally changed philosophically now to prefer Milroe to Dart, right? Like if you're evaluating quarterbacks the same way, I don't know how you could jive. So anyway, I don't think it's the Steelers. So then you're thinking, well, who is this team? It makes all sense in the world that it's the Cleveland Browns. The biggest smoking gun, not a smoking gun, but the biggest thing beyond him being invited to the draft, you know who the Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator is Mr. Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees, the Alabama offensive coordinator in 2023. We've talked a lot about Milroe, like down the stretch last year. He looked broken at times. Down the stretch in 2023, he looked like a future number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, that was what the hype was. I mean, going into this season, I think a lot of people had Milroe as QB1 or close to it, because building off of that hype, and people were like, well, he's going to take the next step, obviously. And that didn't exactly happen. It's not like he had a terrible year or anything, but as a passer, it didn't really evolve that much. But, yeah, I mean, you'd think more people would have this take, considering that obvious connection.
They have the obvious need. We know that they're taking another position at 2, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that this will remain a crazy obvious, and they seemingly have telegraphed that draft equity is going into a quarterback, seeing as though they could have done anything in free agency and all they did was trade for Kenny Pickett, and that Watson's never going to take a snap there again. Like, something is going to happen. Right. And I think that there's, indications that it's going to come via the draft. And so, yeah, you have the thing with the offensive coordinator. And then the other thing where, like, I was already starting to think this, like, the Shadir thing doesn't go down. They can't get access to it. They can't swing that trade up. It's not available to them, or he goes in the top 10, so you're starting to think more and more after that draft invite. It's starting to make more sense. Then earlier this week, a couple of days ago, Andrew Berry, he goes and he does his press conference. People are talking mostly in that about, he basically told everyone, we're taking Travis Hunter. He didn't say those words, but he said everything outside of that. And that's what people focus on. There was also a part of that press conference where he started asking about Milroe. And not as much of that stuff made like the news or whatnot. The comments were very interesting. Andrew Berry could have easily sidestepped it. He could have easily given a cliche. Instead, he effusively praised Jalen Milroe, and it wasn't cliches. In fact, one of the comments where he was praising him, he thought enough in the moment, oh, this could get me in trouble, that he made a follow-up. So what they were asking him about Milroe's tool set, and he said, that's the fastest. He said something like, he's going to be the fastest quarterback in the NFL, maybe even faster than Lamar. It was like I don't remember
it was something like that. I remember, the quote. Yeah.
And then it was like, pause. And then he was like, but don't tell Lamar I said that. Ha ha. Right. And it's like, well, okay, like, it seemed like, okay. Well, then they asked, it was something about, the Tommy Rees. And, you have his offensive coordinator is that helpful? Just like a softball like that, where again, it could have been a non-answer, could have been a cliche. It wasn't. He goes, oh, it's super helpful. He said the fact that Tommy knows how to use him, and the fact that Jalen was so good under Tommy, he's like, absolutely, that's invaluable. It's like something like that. And then the last one, that was even more like maybe subtle, but like to me, it was very telling. They asked him another thing about Milroe and like fitting an offense, or is like something like, wild stallion sort of skill set, and Barry, again, another one, he easily could have sidestepped. And he goes, with a guy that has physical tools that are different from every other quarterback in the NFL, of course, you're going to build a system around that for, essentially that special skill set. And there was another part of where he was essentially directly stating, we have already thought in our building the modifications we would make to the offense to welcome in and facilitate Jalen Milroe's success in the NFL. He didn't say much like the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, but seeing as though he brought him up a minute before, it's like, like in advance of the Lamar thing, the Baltimore Ravens, they're talking about it. It's like, okay, we're going to have to make some modifications to this offense. Like, and it could be awesome, but like, we're going to have to do a couple of different, especially help the acclimation. Those discussions are happening in Cleveland about Jalen Milroe, and nobody seems to care. And one of the guys who's leading the conversation was his freaking OC, when the only guy in college football better than him that year, and it was just slightly, was Jaden Daniels. It was like those two dudes down the stretch. It was like, these guys are freaking killers. I don't understand why more people aren't talking about this. Jalen Milroe falls out of the top 40. Someone at the NFL needs to be fired, right? Because, they've explicitly stated, we don't want to keep inviting people, and then they're sitting in the thing until we don't like that. We don't like doing that to kids. And he sent the invite to Milroe. I don't know, man.
Somebody's got some intel. Yeah.
I've been down here in my bunker so long. I'm starting to see things. I feel like Mel Gibson in Conspiracy Theory. I feel like Charlie Day.
Charlie. Like
my helmets.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see things, man. I don't know if I need to be institutionalized. Or
I like it.
I'm in the astral plane, reporting back from the future. But either way, that's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah. I mean, when you get 500 prospects deep, you just start to see connections that, maybe they don't exist, but you see them, and you got the strings going around. And yeah, I like that theory. I mean, it obviously I like that theory even more if it results in the Falcons getting a nice trade package for someone to come up for Milroe. But yeah, I mean, he's the whole dart above him thing kind of always was a little weird to me. I mean, I get it, but like Milroe's the guy I would bet on. I think he's maybe the most talented runner we've seen since Lamar to come out. I mean, Daniel's really good too. I think Milroe's got the better frame for running. I think Daniels probably needs to maybe relax a little bit. But
yeah,
I don't want Daniels to die. Okay, like I love Jaden Daniels.
You got the Bugs Bunny thing, sometimes. But yeah, with Milroe, it's like it's different, right? Because it's not Lamar Jackson. But it's not Jalen Hurts either. It's like a combination. He's like, sort of halfway in the line of continuum, because the power in the frame is more similar to Hurts. The high end speed is more similar to Jackson, but he doesn't have Jackson's agility.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't have the wiggle. Yeah.
He doesn't have that wiggle. Jackson will break your ankles in the open field. Obviously, Milroe doesn't do that. But the speed to power Milroe can generate, you're talking 220, 225 pounds, and running, the run he had was at 4.4 flat. It's like somewhere,
so.
Yeah. But like at Bama, he was always running high 4.3s.
Yeah.
So I was actually surprised the second number was a 4, because I thought he was going to be in the 4.3s, and I think that's what he was expecting as well. But either way, this is an athletic mutant who is awesome runner of the ball. But yeah, like I think as a scrambler, it's somewhere between those two things. There's some skills from the one, some skills from the other, but different with that. And then he's also one of the best deep ball throwers we've seen enter the NFL for the last 20 years. That part of it's legit. The eye test, like the depth he can get with the ball, the arm strength, and then the lofty throws with it. Like he drops it in the bucket. His deep balls are a thing of beauty. And you look at the numbers on it, ridiculous. His 20+ yard air throws was utterly absurd. But he's got the craziest evaluation, because you have those sort of two Ferrari trump cards, to use your word, type things on his evaluation. And like the stuff that people consider easy, he struggles mightily with.
Yeah.
Throwing short, throwing intermediate. He doesn't do timing concepts. He doesn't do like he wants to see you open. The only time he doesn't is he get that one-on-one shot deep. We're letting it fly. Right?
Yep.
I mean, but otherwise he wanted to see the dude. Okay, he's open, Jalen, throw. Right. And that beat that you missed there is, it's, different between completion and incompletion, sometimes interceptions, but you have that. And then can Tommy Reese now at this point, I'm just going to Jalen Milroe, you are a Brown. Can Tommy Reese, can he fix the layered thing in the intermediate? Like, can he at least convince Milroe, again, I'm going to do my thing where I'm talking to him like a coach. Jalen, can we not throw fastballs every pitch? Some can we
take a little mustard off of that one?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. Let's ratchet it back 10%, okay? And then tomorrow another 10, and then like it's okay to throw, but that's what it is with him. It's the easy stuff that he doesn't do well, and who better than his OC for multiple years to be like, oh well, I had a plan for him. I was in the process of working on it. Then I went to the NFL. Oh no, but now it's like, well, why don't we get back together and we can continue on our plan? And, I think that makes perfect sense. And if it helps out the Falcons, all the better. But yeah, I mean, the Browns got to do something. And, I guess it's okay if they want to come make a trade for Kirk after June 1st too. That's the only way they can afford it, obviously. And there's going to be a lot of financial stuff that would have to happen there. But, I mean, I think everyone would like Jalen Milroe. They're better. I think that would be a better fit. And we'll see if they pull it off, but that would be interesting. I like that. That's exactly what we're going for here on these hot draft takes shows.
Yeah.
We got to get some takes out there. And the Browns trading, assuming obviously Shedur's off the board, but like the Browns trading up to 15 for a quarterback not named Shedur, I think is not, and not Jackson Dart either, which I think a lot of people assume it's going to be Dart as the third quarterback taken, but that would be spicy if it actually ends up being Milroe. So
and another thing there, like with this, and Milroe, because again, it's like, why they invite Milroe? But you don't do things for willy-nilly reasons. Now, if Cleveland there, you're at 33. If Milroe becomes a target, let's say that Shadir, you can't get access to that, and that's probably 85% outcome. right? That he ain't gonna fall there, and then that you could swing the trade if he does, right? Like there's a long path to that. The Milroe one is much more straightforward, and if however that works out with the NFL figuring out this stuff, but like the Browns, it would make all the sense in the world if Shadir indeed is off the board and Milroe is indeed the target, as we've now convinced ourselves of over the last 20 minutes. You would want to, if you're Cleveland, if you're Andrew Berry, you would want to make the exact same trade that our buddy Disco Dan Morgan made last year at the end of Thursday night with Brandon Beane, where you give a not worthless, but a late day 3 pick to move up the 1 slot. And then you both take who you're going to take anyway. With the Bills, it was key. They were going to take Keon Coleman with the 32nd pick. They took him at 33 anyway, pay him a little bit less every year. And then you got your little grab bag, your day 3 flyer pick, whatever. And then the Panthers, you get they came out and said, we wanted to get the 5th year on that. I don't understand as much, but with the quarterback, boom or bust guy, let's just say if Milroe booms, you're going to want that 5th year option.
Yeah.
It's going to save you a lot of money that 5th year. And so anyway, that would make sense. And then you're thinking of the NFL, like if that wouldn't that be a cool moment for television, right? Yeah. Like it's like the team that's already taken Travis Hunter Jr. and the team that has Milroe's college offensive coordinator, and Milroe is like the funnest player to watch in this class, right? Like, cause his high end plays is like, holy shit. Yeah. He's one of those guys that can do things on a football field that other people can't, right? Like, but he's also one of those guys who sometimes he makes dipshit decisions, right? Like, so sometimes he's scrambling, he runs into the back of his offensive line, right? And the thing of always throwing the fastballs, but like there is a special element to his game. And if you can unlock that, and who would you prefer more than his college offensive coordinator? That would be a really cool moment if there was that trade up. And it would also make sense if anyone at the NFL had been tipped off that could happen, even a minor one, even at the very end of the first round, why you would want Jalen Milroe in the building. Because if that trade is announced and now Cleveland is now on the clock and there's going to be a buzz building in that building and they announce Jalen Milroe, the roof's going to blow off that. Well, they don't have a roof at Lambeau, but it's going to be a wild scene. And it would be really cool to have him in the building. So it's like, with that thing, because we don't have any information, you sort of have to create the story in your head. I've gone through a lot of different iterations, Kevin. I've been locked in my bunker for a while. I did the Doctor Strange. I walked through with every team. There's only one team that makes all the sense in the world for this, and that is your Cleveland Browns. Yeah,
well, there we go. So if it happens, we can point everyone back here, and we'll say you called it, a week out.
If it happens,
going to the Browns. Yeah.
If it happens, you got to cut this entire 20 minutes and put it on Twitter. If it doesn't happen, I need you to take this episode off of YouTube.
We're just gonna gloss over it entirely. That's how this works.
That's how this works. Yeah. It didn't happen if I'm wrong, but if it did, I'm the world's smartest
on it the whole way.
Coming in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on it the whole way. So it's been a lot of fun, Thor. Thanks again for coming on, guys. He's at Thor KU on the Twitters, over at fantasylife.com. Go check out the Thor 500 over there. Anything else you want to plug before we sign off today?
No, just Fantasy Life and Thor KU on Twitter. And that board, the 500 board, check that out with the 500 comps. But we'll also on Fantasy Life, that'll be getting updated as the draft goes. So you want to come back, find the earliest and deepest day 2 best available right after the Thursday night gets done. We'll have that out right when the 32nd pick is made. And then including up to after Saturday. I think the coolest thing about my board is after Saturday, you part it down, you take off the 257 guys that have been drafted, the best available UDFAs. And I got comps on all those guys. So like during the free for all on Saturday night, people always tell me like, I love looking at the comps on the different UDFAs that my team signed. So it's a solid resource for that. We have an interactive table with it. You can sort it. You want to see the biggest guy in the class. You want to go by positions. You want to go by RAS. Want to go by age. You can sort by all that different stuff. So check it out. Fantasy Life, totally free.
Yeah, go check it out, guys, for sure. Invaluable resource for all those who enjoy the draft, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Kevin Knight of Falconholic Kevin. Like and subscribe. Give us your own comments. What are your hot Falcons draft takes? Throw those in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to support the show, you can do so at Patreon or join up with the YouTube channel members. We'll be back, of course, for Wednesday's show to do a final live mock draft for all the people. So definitely show up for that. And then we'll be live during all 3 nights of the NFL draft here on Dirty Birds and Brews podcast and Falcoholic Live. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us. Thanks again to Thor for stopping in and delivering almost 90 minutes of draft takes. That was rapid fire. We went through it. So appreciate your time, Thor. And guys, less than a week till the NFL draft. It's almost here. So we made it. We made it. It's the fun time now, as Thor said. So, all right, guys, have a great night. Thanks for joining us.